Welcome back to Echo Ridge. Today, we're going to be playing Captain of Industry. They just released Update 3 and introduced trains, and I'm a sucker for some trains and automation, so I figured I'd give it a try. I played a bunch yesterday just to sort of learn the controls. We're going to start in New Haven because this will be my first real playthrough of it. And in each map, you have different starting positions that could make the map more or less difficult. We're going to keep it on the easy setting, number 1. We've got a big list of what resources the map has on the right-hand side. We will next, game difficulty, I'm the captain now, which once again looks to be the standard way to play. We have different mechanics that we could use to change up how the game is played. We're just going to keep the default with ore sorting, which just means that yes, you have to sort your ore, and then all we have to do is name it. I'm going to go with the very original, I just thought of it for the first time, Echo Ridge. This is what this game is all about. It's like sitting in a sandbox playing with the old Tonka trucks. Now here with a fresh map, you can see that we start off with a tree harvester and a bunch of pickups. We have a ship, although it needs to be repaired, and we have a shipyard that is damaged but does have some bare necessities. I want you to keep an eye on these construction parts because in my first playthrough, they were my limited resource, which was probably also caused from me expanding a bit too fast. Now, we do have a population in this game. You can see here our total population is 90 and we have a capacity of 160. Of those folks, we have 78 available workers. And that's because, for instance, in the food market, we have 3 people working. And then each one of these pickups and the tree harvester also has people working. And that's sort of it, the way we start. You can see that we're on the shore. There's a bunch of mountains in front of us, and it's our job just to build industry. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and warn you, the game does have a bit of a learning curve, but it's not anything that you can't overcome. You are assisted at the start of the game with certain goals that you'll get rewards for. It's sort of a soft tutorial, but there's going to be a few tips and tricks that I had to learn the hard way that I'm hoping to be able to give to you. Now, for those of you new to Captain of Industry, have never seen this before, some of these screenshots represent how far you can build your industry up. Now, granted, some of these are going to take a very long time to achieve. Take this screenshot here. There are trains going to destinations. You see an excavator on the road. This is a bunch of housing. Look at all the beautiful decorations. A pretty cool mining site. Here's some of the vehicles that you can use. The prototypical spaghetti picture. And have I mentioned trains yet? I mean, look how glorious these trains are. Look at the automated goodness that you see in this one. You can see a bunch of conveyor belts and rails. And of course, with a game like this, we get a very in-depth UI. And the reason why I wanted to show you all those screenshots is because ours is going to look nothing like that at the beginning. I mean, just wait until you see the research tree and oh my goodness, I haven't been paused this whole time. There are people who have been eating all their food. Okay, I really need to get the show on a road. I'm going to go down here into my food production panel and click on farm and try to get the available food back up since I've been running my mouth for too long. Now, at any time you get a little confused with these goals, there's a little open tutorial button where you can read through. Over here on the right side, there's also a button that'll take us over to our codex, where it'll list some of our starting components that we have access to right now, which I'm assuming expands greatly here in the future. One thing that I did not know yesterday when I started this and didn't learn it until afterwards is this little layers button down here. When we click on it, you can see there's a bunch of resources around the map. Unfortunately for me, they are all designated by color. Fortunately though, the devs made it to where you can unhighlight that specific element. And in this case, by flickering on and off groundwater, I can see where the groundwater is. Unfortunately, our farm will not fit in here because there are still trees in the way. We'll end up fixing that in the future. So for now, I think we're just going to put our farm somewhere around here. We can use R to rotate. This is a little bit closer to the groundwater. That's got to be better, right? And our farm goes in, and now it's time to unpause. And what happens is our pickup trucks grab material, in this case construction parts, from our shipyard and head on over to the farm. They drop off the construction parts and whammo blammo, our farm is being built. And after a short bit, we now have a farm. By clicking on it, we can see there's not a lot of soil moisture in this farm. And that's because we didn't place it on said groundwater. So we're going to have to wait for it to rain before we start getting more potatoes. Luckily, we don't have a big population, and we still have 56 months of food left. Now that I've made sure the population is okay, it is time to start our industry. And the wonderful tutorial is telling us we need to build a coal maker and connect it to a smokestack. I'm going to put the coal maker right here. No big deal. Then I'm going to go over to waste management, and I got to tie it in with a smokestack. And you might wonder, why are the smokestacks separated from the buildings themselves? And it's because there's nothing to say that you couldn't connect multiple coal makers to a single smokestack. And the reason why I say this, you can see every 40 seconds, we're going to be outputting 4 exhaust, whereas a smokestack can get rid of 20 in 20 seconds. But to start off with, our coal maker is in. Unfortunately, it takes wood. So it's time to assign our tree harvesters. Step 1 is going to be assigning some pickup trucks to the tree harvesters. I don't know if that's the optimum number, but it sort of makes sense, and we'll be able to see that here in a minute. I'm going to go over to forestry. We're going to designate a harvestable area. And remember, I want to clear out this area so I can get my farm closer to the groundwater. So I think we'll start by clearing all of these trees. Yes, it's another game where the true enemies are the trees. And now our tree harvester comes over, starts taking down the trees. Once it finishes loading the tree into the pickup will then take off, and the other pickup is available for the tree harvester to continue. So I think 2, depending on your distance, probably works well. Look at it, it's raining. We can go check on our farm and see that we have some soil moisture. And oh my goodness, it's already December of the first year, and we've gotten our first potato crop. We can even follow the truck as it takes the potatoes over to the, I'm assuming the food market's where it's going. Yes, it is. Our food market can hold 400 potatoes. Otherwise, the truck would have taken it to an alternate storage facility. In this case, probably the shipyard. But we did get a reward for completing food production. We received 40 more potatoes and 20 construction materials. Next up on our coal industry, as we can see, we have wood being turned into coal, which is going to be our starting fuel source. And the first thing we're going to be producing is iron. And that takes a blast furnace. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to put this. I know we're going to be using the iron scrap coming out of this abandoned communication station. So in an effort to keep the distances close, I'll put the blast furnace there. And each blast furnace needs 2 metal casters. I think this might be a pretty clean setup. I'll put one there. I'll press C to copy that, rotate it around, and there's our second metal caster. Over on our transport page, we do have access to the molten channels and pipes. There's going to be a lot more buildings and options, but we haven't even started the whole research front yet. So let me put those metal channels in here. Oh, isn't this nice? My blast furnace is saying it too needs a smokestack. Hopefully I can still squeeze one in there. Oh, beautiful. And of course I messed this one up. You can see that the connections are not connected. So I need to deconstruct by hitting the delete key. This wonderful smokestack. The truck then takes the materials and brings them back. Now this time, let's make sure I rotate it. There's the nice clean connection. With our smokestack in, trucks are now going to be taking scrap metal, bringing it over to the blast furnace, combining it with some coal, and then we get the molten iron coming through the channels, where they are then distributed and cooled for a fresh source of iron. If we wanted to look at that in detail, you can see the recipe pane for the blast furnace. Right now, it's the only recipe we have, but rest assured, there are of course many others. Now you can see this process takes 60 seconds to combine the scrap metal and the coal to produce the molten iron, which times up well with the metal casters taking 60 seconds to take molten iron and turn it into regular iron. But with that, we've completed iron production, received 50 diesel, 50 construction parts, and 30 vehicle parts. which gives me good reason to highlight this menu over here. This is our inventory, and you can click on any of these to see the sort of history of how much of a material you have. You can even pin and unpin different materials to the menu, but for now this is good enough, as these are our core necessities. What's going on with our trees? Our trucks don't have anywhere to put the wood. And that's because our shipyard is overloaded with cargo, so they can't drop the excess wood to the shipyard, and our wonderful coal maker only uses 18 wood every 60 seconds. We'll be able to fix that issue, and our tree harvester will be able to work a lot faster. But for now, we do have some idling. Next up is going to be research, and I cannot wait to show you this glorious research tree. But before we can do research, we're going to need a source of electricity. While our blast furnace operates right off of coal, the research lab requires 40 kilowatts of electricity, so we're going to need to build a diesel generator, which is our first electricity producer. Here we go, diesel generator. For the cost of 3 diesel, we'll get 800 kilowatts. I think we'll put this close to the shipyard. We'll end up moving all of this. Now, we started the game with 490 diesel, but rest assured, our production will start getting to the point where we are making our own diesel. I don't see why we can't start getting our research labs in. Now, you might be tempted to go with more than one research lab, but if we highlight over the research lab, you can see that it takes 30 construction materials. We aren't making any new construction materials, at least yet, so you want to conserve these resources in the beginning. So we're just going to put down one research lab, try to make it nice and pretty in here. Some pickup trucks are grabbing the necessary materials. This is the part that I say is like a sandbox, which I guess the game really is sort of a sandbox. We're just moving around our little trucks, building some stuff. Our diesel generator is finished. Notice we're not using any diesel right now, and it's because we don't have any electricity demand yet. But you may have noticed a new button appearing down here, and that is our wonderful research tree. Look at this enormous... Yep, I had to move the mouse just to keep scrolling through it. I'm still going, folks. More research. The last 2 buildings you'll research are space probes and asteroid boosters. Yeah, we have a long ways to go. But the tutorial is telling me to research trading docks, so I will do that. We just click it and hit start research. And yes, you can queue things up. So I'm going to add construction to the queue because I know that's where we're heading next. While I'm waiting for the research, I wanted to highlight that because the storage is such an issue, our wonderful metal casters stamping out the iron are no longer functioning because there's not enough space to store the excess iron. That's almost okay though. We don't need the iron right now. So instead of wasting coal, the blast furnace just sort of stops because it can't output any more molten iron. And our whole industry sort of backs up from that point. Now, eventually your industry is going to have so many different legs and arms that something like this can cause a problem, a bottleneck of sorts. But for now, I am perfectly okay with it. We have completed the trading dock research. Now it wants me to build a trading dock right next to our wonderful storage yard. It can't be too close to our shipyard because the ships using it need to be able to ingress and egress. And the same thing goes with the trading dock. It'd be nice if we could have sort of combined the two, but this looks good enough there. You can see the pickup trucks coming with all the construction materials. Actually, they're not construction materials. It only takes wood to build the trading dock. Offloading the wood, beautiful. Now it does take 100 wood. They've only dropped off 40. And most of the time we would have had the wood in our shipyard or another storage building, but we haven't built those yet. We're getting there. Our shipyard is just holding too many materials. Notice the diesel generator is consuming the diesel now. Granted, it's not a lot, only the 40 kilowatts required by the one research lab. Okay, I'm going to spend a little bit extra and put down another research lab so we can double our output. But this is the only one that I'm not going to follow the guidelines of the tutorial with. We've completed construction, which has given us access to the assembler and recipes for construction parts, mechanical parts, and electronics. Assembler is over in production down here, another new icon for us. There's our 3 recipes. Now, where do I want to put this? All of our storage and everything is here, but our iron industry is right here. So I suppose we'll start maybe right here. Settlement is full of trash. I better do this waste dumping rather quickly. We need to designate a zone to drop off our waste. As you can see in our housing area, they're full on potatoes and trash. If I go over into the Terraform menu, we can see we have a dumping designation. Now there is a whole tutorial about learning how to dump and how to set up different dump zones. And I'm going to try to give you the bare minimum basics. But I highly recommend that you spend some time in the message center here to be able to learn about dumping. Now you could do a few different things, and I've done several of them. I could start dumping things into the ocean. I could start making just giant landfills full of trash. In this case, I'm going to start building a ramp because as you can see, we're sort of blocked in here by this shelf of mountains. Well, eventually, I'm going to want to get access to all the resources and everything over here. Now, these keys up here on this menu kind of show you how your dumping site will be. If I just click and keep going like this, you can see this is how the trucks will start laying out the waste. Notice there's sort of a ramp, and that's because the trucks can't just pile something 15 units high because they can't get to the top. So you could do something like this, rotate it, and there you go, your typical landfill. I could also say from a flat surface, say like this plus 16 here, throw out the dump like this. But notice the trucks wouldn't be able to get up there. There'd be no rhyme or reason on how the trucks would be able to dump that trash. So what we're going to do is use this sloping nature here and build a ramp. 4 tiles high seems good, and hopefully it gets us there. I don't love that, but I think it will work. So there's our first dump designation. I'm also going to highlight our vehicles button over here where it says our vehicles are stable. What that little menu means is right now we have 9 vehicles out of a max of 80. You'll be able to raise that limit through research, but for now that is our max. You can also see that we have 9 workers with those 9 vehicles. But if I click on the button, it brings us to our vehicle management. In the vehicle management, you can set overall priorities on construction versus deconstruction. Right now, they're all set on 8. But we also see what can be dumped by trucks. And right now, it's dirt, rock, slag, and waste. That's what we're looking for. You can apparently also set up zoning. Right now, we only have the default unassigned and assigned to tree harvesting. And there's also job statistics, and then a vehicle upgrader. I cannot wait to get our Tonka trucks. But before the trucks are going to be able to carry that waste over to that designated spot, we need to add a building to our housing complex, which is just great that they're living in a bunch of shipping containers right now. Hey, we all got to start somewhere, but there's a waste collection building that attaches to the housing areas. So I'm just going to put it right here next to the food place, and once it's complete, notice it is collecting all the waste from the neighborhoods, and then trucks grab the waste. We're going to follow this little guy because it's going to be amazing, and they're going to head over to our dump site. Look, I'm not making truck noises in the background. Now, this dump site is a little further away than what I'd prefer, because right now all of this is costing us more diesel than it necessarily had to. But I wanted to get access to that second shelf up there sooner rather than later. And look at this, they're dumping out the trash. And you can already start seeing the ramp being formed. You may have also noticed in the course of the gameplay is all these dirt tracks from where the trucks are going. You can sort of consider those a heat map of the most common areas where trucks are driving. For dumping our waste, we received 80 concrete and 50 more construction parts. But the game's not done. It wants us to go over to our trade depot and execute a trade with another village in the world, purchasing concrete slabs for iron. We don't have a concrete industry yet, so that's why we have to use the world. There's a couple of ways to do this. I can click on the trading dock and select trade with a village. Our world map opens. Yes, there's a world map and you can explore these locations too. But we can also just click on our trade icon down here in the bottom, and you can see these are all the quick trade offers available to us. We'll end up getting more trade offers, but right now the only village we've discovered is this one over here. So we can also just click on it, and we can see what they have available for trade, what our reputation is, population that we could adopt from, and any loans that we have with these folks. For now, we're just going to do like the tutorial says and trade some of the iron that we have for concrete. Once we do that, we've learned how to trade. We're going to get 80 more concrete and 60 more construction parts. Our assembler is also finished while we were dealing with trash, and notice it too requires 40 kilowatts. It also needs 4 workers assigned to it, and right now the tutorial is telling us we need to produce construction parts out of this one, so we're going to set the recipes. So we're going to select the one that says construction parts, noticing that the construction parts take 60 seconds and require iron, wood, and concrete slab. Now right now, our source of concrete and iron is limited to this abandoned communication station. But in our next episode, we're actually going to start mining out iron from the hillside, sorting it, and then instead of using a recipe of iron scrap and coal, we'll be going from iron ore to iron. But for now, we're just melting down this entire little site. Next up is mechanical parts. So we already know how to do that. We're going to make an assembler. I will put it, say, here. And even though it's not built yet, we can still click on it, set the recipe. That way, when it is finished being built, we don't have to worry about it. And here's our mechanical parts right here. 40 more kilowatts and 4 more workers. If you remember in the beginning of the episode, I showed you a bunch of screenshots, and that's because I knew how austere our industry was going to look here in this early part of the game. But rest assured, I'm going to record the second episode right now. I'm hoping this was enough to wet your whistle a little bit with Captain of Industry, and I hope you let me know what you thought down in the comments below. So until next time, much love, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you soon.